All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think folks are going to continue to trickle in, but just want to, in the interest of time and letting you get back to your busy schedules, get this party started. So my name is Benny Kim. I'm the head of portfolio here at Uptake Alliance, and I am so thrilled to see so many of the incredible climate entrepreneurs with us, all working towards our common goal of building climate impact. So a little bit about me. I've been working in and around climate and entrepreneurship and supporting climate entrepreneurs for the last 7 years now. Started off as an engineer at a company called Tank Utility out of Boston, which has since been acquired by Generac. And then went on to work with companies like Greentown Labs, where I helped work on partnerships there. Went to Elemental Accelerator over in Honolulu and helped lead deal flow there for a time, and now have the amazing opportunity to build a new program in New York State with Uptake Alliance. So today, we just want to share a little bit about what we're building here at Uptake with you all, share our mission with you. We've got about 20 minutes of presentation, but we do want to leave the rest of the time to answer any questions that you may have about our program. And we also especially encourage you to tell us a little bit about what you need and what you're seeing out there in the market. We are really here to build this program to support those of you who are building climate solutions for our crisis. And we want to know what we can do to help and what can make you successful. So without further ado, I'll introduce Chris Richardson, who is the Executive Director of Uptake Alliance, to share Uptake with you all. Chris is the Executive Director and a partner at ADL Ventures, and he heads up our energy and transportation practices. He's a theory entrepreneur. He's worked in energy and transportation strategy and led demand response product marketing at Enernoc, which has since been acquired by Enel. And with ADL, Chris has orchestrated climate spinouts across hardware, software. He's the co-founder of the EV Button, which is an EV project development company that is focused on accelerating fleet acceleration. And he's got an undergraduate degree from Northwestern University and an MBA with honors from the University of Chicago Booth. So Chris, we'll hand it over to you and we'll start my screen share.
Sweet. Thanks, Benny. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. As Benny mentioned, Chris Richardson, Executive Director of Uptake. We've been working on Uptake, which at one point in time was the climatetech growth platform for almost all of 2023. But it's really just now with the governor's announcement last month that we're able to share what we've been working on more broadly and really invite the community to join us in this alignment, in this alliance. So program was recently announced by Governor Hochul, $8.5 million program funded by NYSERDA. And the goal is to bring together the ecosystem of corporate partners, startups, policymakers, investors, bring everyone together to create the conditions for climate ventures to thrive. We spent a long time thinking about the name of this program, and the reason we call it Uptake is because we decided that's the metric that matters. It's not funding, it's not anything else but uptake, because it drives the two metrics that matter, and that's market adoption and climate impact. It's a single word, a single concept that incorporates both of those goals that I think all of us share here. So Benny, we can move on forward. So what's our mission? It's to ensure the adoption of market-ready climate technologies. Ensure is a ludicrously high bar, and so that's why it's our mission rather than a guarantee. But everything we are doing is to create the conditions for frontier climate ventures to thrive. And so, if we're successful, some of the key results are going to be a net zero America by 2050, or ideally several years earlier, because we don't have time to waste, and to have the time required to solve problems, climate-related problems at corporates, at incumbents, and deploy solutions at scale. So if we're successful, we are going to be the platform to solve climate-related corporate challenges. We can go one more slide, Benny. And so I think Uptake is rooted in a very specific theory of change, right? So again, if the goal is market adoption and climate impact, where does it begin? And this is very much a regenerative cycle with inputs from corporates, inputs from startups. But at its core, we want to start with corporates that have technical problems that are preventing them from achieving their strategic goals, and then select startups that are best positioned to address those on market needs, then creating the conditions for those climate ventures to thrive in a tailored program that focuses on commercial traction. So we see funding as absolutely essential to growth, to adoption, but the natural result of demonstrated commercial traction. Even when we think about funding, I would say that we think about it a little bit more holistically, right? Like we're launching Uptake at a particular moment in time. It's soon after IIJA, IRA, other big New York initiatives. And that gives us an opportunity to actually develop a thesis, develop curriculum around the idea that non-dilutive is an incredibly important piece of the funding pathway, always has been, but particularly so today. I mean, if you think about some of the startups that ADL has nurtured and spun out, often like 80-20 ratio of non-dilutive versus dilutive funding sources, if we're able to be creative about some of those opportunities. And so we generally just tend to think of funding more holistically, think about the role of CVC grants, incentives really strongly as part of that growth cycle. And I guess the last thing I'll mention on this slide is that hopefully you'll notice this is an infinity sign, and the goal of this process is a regenerative cycle of climate impact and market adoption, and that's what we're in it for. And so this is the ecosystem that we're trying to create. Next slide, Benny. So Uptake originated from ADL Ventures, where I'm a partner. ADL works to develop and launch clean infrastructure innovations. Our focus is on how this ecosystem of commercial partners, dilutive funding, non-dilutive grants and incentives can all work together to accelerate adoption. And we are experienced entrepreneurs ourselves. So across the ADL leadership team, we've raised over $100 million in federal funding, over $700 million in venture. And so we're bringing that expertise and experience as experienced climate entrepreneurs to guide all of you through the unknown of being an entrepreneur, right? Like we may not have climbed your mountain before, but certainly we've climbed other similar mountains, and excited to work really collaboratively with you to navigate the mysteries, the unknowns of entrepreneurship. Next slide, Benny. So our work and really that theory of change that I mentioned a couple slides ago is rooted in transformational work we've led with PG&E, with other utilities. And again, the idea is to start with this problem statement of the corporate and then create the conditions for adoption of startups. And so, I think we've all, or many of us have tried to sell into utilities, tried to sell into big corporates, and it's a maze, like who's the right buyer, who's willing to pay. The idea here is to start with an executive who is willing to pay for a problem to be solved, really articulate the metrics of success for that problem to be solved, and then ultimately accelerate the path to adoption. And so this is just an example here on this slide of some of the work that we've done throughout 2023 with PG&E. We first worked with them to articulate their R&D strategy. It's a 143-page document that outlines not only their strategic direction, but also 68 problem statements that are preventing them from achieving some of those goals, and starts to lay the breadcrumbs for the role of R&D in addressing some of those problem statements. So a few weeks after publishing that R&D strategy, we hosted an innovation summit. It's incredible what happens when you can get leadership involved. So, Patty Poppy texted Elon Musk and asked him to participate. Pretty soon we had 4,000 people showing up to an innovation summit that we held in San Ramon, where we articulated all of these PG&E problem statements and issued the call to action to the innovation community to address some of those problem statements. We had 630 folks apply to prepare to share their solutions to those specific problem statements. 60 of those presented at Pitch Fest, and we're actively scoping partnerships and pilots today with a number of those startups. And so again, just building on this idea that if you're able to start with a problem statement, you're able to create the conditions for adoption because you have the buyer who said the problem that need to solve, and the startup is able to adapt their message, or in some cases their technology or their business plan to address that gap. Next slide, Benny. I think this last slide just quickly on ADL, which again is leading uptake. So there are 3 tools we've developed to accelerate adoption for frontier climate ventures. So Problem Space is a DOE-funded open innovation platform where we spin in solutions to solve vexing technical challenges. Monetizing Innovation was also funded by DOE. It's where we spin out ventures that get stuck within legacy sector organizations. And so, in this case, we've spun out 5 in the last year across hardware, software, and project development. And then also startup support scaffolding. I think historically we've been somewhat limited in the number of startups we're able to support through, either the spin outs we've led from corporates, or through certainly dozens of earlier stage startups we supported through our partnership with NREL and the American Made Challenge. And what we're really excited about is this opportunity presented by NYSERDA to launch Uptake, support 100 startups over the next 2.5 years, and really deploy a lot of the techniques that we've developed to rapidly accelerate adoption with all of you. So Benny, we can move on to what I think is my last slide before I hand it over to you. For Uptake to be the results, we require deep engagement across the community. So that means corporates, startups, policymakers, investors. This is a really collaborative, integrated community. And, of course, all of this is going to be fueled by the vision of NYSERDA in creating the opportunity for this program to exist. And so I think community is a really big word for us, and certainly it relates to all these different stakeholders, but it also relates to what we think of as our relationship with all of you, right? This isn't the idea of a one-off cohort. Like, the idea is to build a lifelong community where we're working together to drive adoption. And I think you'll see that in the program structure Benny's going to outline here next. So take it away, Benny.
All right, thank you, Chris. Really quickly, just a midway point pause. Want to remind folks that the Q&A is open on the bottom of your screen there, or wherever your Zoom bar is. If you do have questions about anything that Chris discussed so far, or anything that I'm about to share, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and we're going to get to it at the end of our presentation. But you can feel free to start dropping those questions in now. All right. So a little bit about the program schedule and what we have coming up on the next horizon. So Uptake is a 6-month-long, no cost, no equity program. And we are, again, all focused on helping you achieve market adoption. So we're building the program to be tailor-made to fit your needs. And we'll be building our programming around a roadmap that we'll build together and try and identify what do the next 6 months to a year look like for you, and what are the major priorities that you've got coming up ahead. So the first collective is going to kick off in January, and then we'll go into about 6 months of facilitated workshops, connecting you with mentors who are best fit to address your needs, and then also a curriculum that's going to help grow your business and prepare you to build a holistic funding strategy, land the commercial deals, and ultimately drive towards the market adoption, which we've continued to have found it to. The way the program structure is broken down, so the first 3 months is going to be our core curriculum. And one of our first activities, again, is going to be to build that customized roadmap, understand the current state of your business and where you need to go. And then we'll focus on covering all the bases with you, looking at your product, looking at your market, and trying to figure out what is the operational excellence that you need to achieve in order to help you thrive. And by understanding that we do understand that some of these modules may be more important to some than others. Some of you may be ahead the curve on some things and maybe need a little bit more support on others. And we'll continuously be trying to put together different workshops and opportunities for the critical conversations that you need to be having. But we'll focus those first 3 months on market intelligence, capital strategy, and operational excellence of your business. And throughout all of that, we'll be connecting you with a mentor or two who will be an expert in the area that you've deemed as your headline goal for the next 6 months, and they'll be helping continue to guide you through that journey. And so for this first 3 months, we're looking at about five or so hours a week of commitment from your side. And then after those first 3 months, we'll go into the runway phase. And this is really just to implement and apply the lessons that we've gathered from the core phase and put them towards addressing your market needs and securing those commercial agreements, building strategic partnerships with your target organizations. And I think during this phase, you can really see us as an extension of your team. Like, let us know, who are you trying to reach out to? Who do you want to connect with? And who do you see as critical for your business growth? And let us kind of be an extension of your team, work towards those goals with you and support you in your development. Throughout all of this, we've got a bunch of resources that we'll make available to you. We'll have a digital knowledge hub that houses all of our templates and case studies and different methodologies that will continuously be available to you throughout the whole program. And then after those 6 months, we are aiming to have the program end around a 6-month time frame. If companies feel that they need a little bit more time, we are more than happy to welcome companies to stick with us for a little bit more, give them a little bit more mentorship, and provide that extra support. But we are going to try and focus it down to 6 months because we think that within that time frame we can get a lot of good work done. But after the program ends, it's not really an end. You just move into an emeritus status. We continue to work with you. We continue to keep in touch, and continue to wish for every success of yours. We will have a lot of community-only events that we'll continue to host. The workshops will continue to be available to you, and more information coming around this. But we will also have grant funding eligibility for deploying pilot projects, which we're still working out, but we'll be sharing with that first collective around the time that they're onboarding. So who should apply? If you are a climate tech innovator who is building a solution in energy, transportation, buildings, industry, and you're addressing market needs, please come talk to us. Let us know what you're working on, and we'd be more than happy to take a look. We are tied, of course, to the goals of the Community Leadership and Climate Protection Act of New York State, and want to support those goals, and also and through that want to support the addressing of the climate crisis. We're also looking for market-ready ventures, and so ideally, we're looking for companies that are what we think is within a year of revenue or already in the market with a commercial product. If you are if you are a company that is a little bit earlier in that stage, we'd still encourage you to come learn from us and check us out, see if we might be a good fit. But we're also more than happy to introduce you to the many amazing New York State ecosystem partners that we've got, accelerator programs and incubators that may be a better fit for you. But we're happy to make those introductions as well. And of course, global impact seekers. So we're open to startups based anywhere in the world that want to create a positive climate impact. We are New York based and want to especially support those companies that are building impact in New York and able to work towards New York's climate goals. But we are going to be taking a look at companies from around the globe. So no matter where you're based, don't be afraid to reach out and apply. So I think that's it from me and Chris. We'll open it up to Q&A now. Just a quick reminder from us, applications are due October 27th. And so I believe that is about 2 weeks away. We're very much looking forward to learning more about your solutions and what you've got cooking and how we can best support you. If you do have any other further questions after this webinar, you can please feel free to reach me at benny.kim@uptakealliance.com, or you can find us on the website and reach out to us through there. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for joining again, and we'll leave the rest of the time to Q&A.
So Benny,
And
I
I
see
see.
one question in, and I think you wanted people raising their hand if they wanted to ask a question live as well. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So besides just typing in the chat, if you do want to come off mute, please just raise your hand, and our colleague Carmen can and help get you off mute and ask your question live. But you're also more than welcome to use the Q&A chat as well. So for this first question, how many companies will be selected to participate in this first cohort? So for this first collective of companies, we're looking for around 15 companies across the industries that we mentioned earlier, energy, transportation, buildings, and industry. We're expecting to, again, Chris mentioned earlier, we're expecting to support over around 100 companies over the next 3 years. So this first 15 is just more of a test for us to make sure that we've and a first prototype of our programming. But afterwards, we're going to be taking on much more companies with each growing collective. And so we're expecting to start seeing about 20 to 25 companies with each group as we move forward. Okay, lots of questions coming in. Great. Do you assist with funding needs during the first 6 months? So if you mean, we've got a network of investors that we work with closely, and I believe we've signed close to 10 MOUs so far, and more coming on the way with climatetech investors that are nationwide, and especially trying to build those relationships in New York as well. We're going to be helping make those connections, where a lot of our programming is going to be focused on creating a holistic funding strategy and capital strategy for your business. But we are a no cost, no equity program, and we don't provide funding ourselves, but we will have grant funding available after the first 6 months of our program. Chris, anything you want to add on to that?
Nailed it.
Awesome. All right. Next question, what will the in-person programming look like? How will a startup located far from New York City participate? Very good question. So we do want to do a live kickoff with each collective, and want to invite companies from around the world to be able to come join us in New York. And I want to mention that we are not New York City based, we are New York based. And so we're going to be building a presence across the state of New York, and exploring a little bit of upstate as well, not just New York City. But we do want to invite the companies to come join us. So at least every 6 months, I think we'll be hosting something with the new collective as they come in. And we'll also be looking to do demo days or launch programs and other opportunities and events in which we can get the companies to join us in New York State. We will have some programming available for New York specific companies. For global companies that are making a big jump over, we'd love to support and make sure that we're turning it into a very valuable trip for you as well, because we understand that it's quite a bit of a commitment to come all the way to New York. And so we'll be looking to support programming and putting together a full agenda for companies that are making their way over.
Just one small thing to add here, Benny, is that we'll make hybrid options available for those that can't attend in New York. We think there is value in building those connections at those in-market events, but we certainly won't make it limited to that.
Awesome. Yeah. David, good to see you again.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you, Benny.
Yeah. What's the question we can answer for you?
So first, thank you so much, guys. That was very succinct, very brilliant presentation. Quick question, and I admit I came in about 3 or 4 minutes late. What the corporate partners? What's the profile typically that you have or are seeking with the corporates?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll take that one. In general, we'll be looking at those who have pretty large emissions presence, especially in the state of New York. We'll be looking at companies that certainly deep with utilities, and those that are going to be really, really critical to accelerating adoption on the grid side. And especially, when we think about the intersection of grid with buildings, with transportation, and to a degree with industry as well, I think that's going to be a really central piece, as well as companies that are making all of the technologies that are going to accelerate the climate transition, right? So if we think about DERMS providers, if we think about existing renewables companies, developers, all of these companies have gating technical problems that, if solved, could move the needle for their business. So it is a relatively broad swath of corporates that will be looking to engage as part of this program.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys.
You got it.
Thank you. We have a question from Christoph. We are an international but recently incorporated in New York, ready and proven system to solve wetness in walls and basement issues in a unique way. Is that good for applying We Need jump over / relocation? Yes, absolutely. We want to be the Central New York program that helps you integrate into the New York ecosystem. But at the same time, we also know that we've got Scale for Climatech, which is a manufacturing support organization that is based in New York State, and we'd be happy to introduce you to them. We've got other programs throughout New York State that can help the relocation. So even if we are not the best program fit for you, an application to us does ensure that we get your application over to other companies so that they can learn and see if they're a better fit for supporting you. But yes, we do want to support those companies that are looking to make a move into New York State. Chris, question for you.
How do you assess?
How do you assess product commercialization timeline? Does a demonstration possibility within 1 year count?
Yeah, so if you think about the program we are building, it is to ensure you are prepared for making the most out of corporate and incumbent discussions. And so if you are ready to engage with a corporate in a commercial discussion, even if that's a commercial pilot, that's a good spot for us, right? It doesn't need to be something that's been in market for years. Although I do want to enforce that we are also open to companies that already have a commercial product, already are generating revenue, and are just trying to figure out that path towards scale as well. So it is a relatively broad range of stage that we support. But yeah, if you're in business formation phase, or if you're TRL 3 and trying to advance to some of those later TRLs, a lot of those can be technical challenges rather than commercial challenges in those very early days. And so depending on the type of business and where you are, you just want to make sure that you're ready to dive fully into commercial discussions to make most out of this program. Expand on, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to get to the live questions first. Najin, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can indeed.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I just want to dig deeper about the public-private partnerships, and then we just generated our revenue and then expanding our commercial pilots with the new lab. So, and then short notes is we are visualizing real-time carbon of the buildings, including the commercial tenants and the building owners, to accommodate the local law 97, and also try to monetize their carbon reduction potential by connecting all those clean techs so as a platform, and then also hardware, software solutions. So what could be the good, I think the optimal contribution that we could make to this the program, what partnerships we could make, or what existing your corporate partners in terms of the building areas, or we're specifically also targeting for our underserved community act as well. So what could be the potential directions, if you could imagine?
All right. Chris, do you want to maybe talk about EDC, or do you have any others that you're thinking of?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a really good point in terms of EDC and other partners, where the state of New York has a lot of buildings that can effectively be used as a test bed for technologies like this. And so, that's one of many pathways to figure out how to pilot and prove out this technology in a faster, more accelerated fashion. So I think that's one important piece to think through. And I guess I'd also articulate that our network of corporate partnerships is growing and expanding over time, right? Like we're just getting started, we're growing this over time. And so insights like that, like, hey, we're offering real-time visibility into carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions at every moment in time. Like if we can take that insight and almost build our network of corporates that can articulate those problem statements related to that in a really crisp way, I think over time this program is going to be increasingly valuable. So really excited to make that a two-way street also, you know, as we get a better sense from all of you in terms of the specific problems you're solving, making sure we're engaging the right corporates at the right time.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you, Najin. Chris, could you expand on ADL's relationship with New York-based utility companies and how/if Uptake can help selected companies leverage these relationships?
Yeah, so I would say in general, ADL has deep utility relationships across the US. We've spun out companies from PG&E, Exelon, National Grid. We've worked on strategy with a lot of utilities. I would say that it's an area of particularly deep expertise across this team, and we're having deep senior level discussions right now with every major utility in New York, and so that is absolutely the plan to ensure that we are articulating those problem statements really crisply, and creating the infrastructure for those utility venture relationships to blossom.
And a question from Anonymous. Why should my startup choose Uptake Alliance instead of other accelerator programs? Very good question. I think it's all about stage and what your focus is on. If you are a B2C company that's in the seed stage, I don't necessarily think that we're maybe the right fit for you, but we are happy to try and point you in the right direction. Our focus is going to be on helping companies with the commercial or near commercial ready product get into the market, talk to incumbents and corporates, utilities, and help make those conversations easier, and at the same time help corporates speak the language of startups a little bit better, and help startups push into that phase where they're ready to have the conversations with the higher ups at these large utilities and corporates. So that's our focus area, and through our conversations in New York State, I think it's a need and a market need that we're filling and addressing. But at the same time, we recognize that there's a lot of really great programs out there, and we don't want to take away from that. Like they're absolutely great. They're just serving a different stage from us, I would say. Obviously, there is going to be a little overlap, but I think our program is kind of finding their niche, and again that corporate connection and later stage of company. And then Chris, another thing that I wanted to add to Najin's question was, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the building work that we do. Like ADL has an amazing energy and transportation practice, but the whole other half of the business is on buildings, and what sort of carryover that might have, and the expertise that we can draw from ADL directly into Uptake.
Yeah, it's a great question, Benny. So, again, my other partners lead our buildings practice. I generally focus on energy and transportation personally, but if you think about some of the work that we're doing, for example, with RMI on the Advanced Building Construction Collaborative, it's really about making sure that all the pieces of the building ecosystem are rowing in the same direction, are all working together to drive adoption of building technologies. And so that's a $5 million DOE program that will likely be extended, and that serves as a really foundational piece of a lot of the work that we do in buildings. And then I would also say, in particular, in case folks on this call have relevant technology, the team has particularly deep insights in offsite and modular construction. So there are obviously a lot of big secular trends toward, even if you think about the way like an Airbus jet is produced right now, right? It's often produced on site with a combination of best in breeds parts and components from all over the world, right? In a factory. if you think about ways in which we can industrialize construction or create really scalable construction methods, there's a lot of potential to embed energy efficiency products, sensors, potentially renewables as well in a really scalable factory setting, and then transfer some of those modules to the construction site. So not saying that that's the only space in which we play, but certainly an area of deep expertise from a buildings perspective within ADL and within Uptake.
Are there any other questions we can answer? Carmen, is there anyone else who's waiting in the wings?
Yeah, I'll unmute.
Oh, Dal, hello. Great to meet you.
Hello. Yes. My question, we are water analytics, helping companies and government entities track water consumption, water quality, water availability closer to real time, which I notice is a big gap in a lot of kind of building and infrastructure, spaces, and digitizing that space. So I'm assuming that we would be a fit based on what I'm hearing from you guys. But we are kind of at the point where we're doing a lot of customer discovery, like our data engine can apply to any a house or a building or a region. It's all the same for us. But we need like support, I guess, kind of what you talked about earlier with corporations understanding how to give us information so we can finish building the product to meet their needs. Is that the kind of thing that you guys can kind of assist us with in this program as you envision it?
It's probably one I'd want to take a double click on with you. I think the answer is yes. I mean, if the answer is to build our product, we actually need data and information from corporates, and then we can then sell that product back to corporates. I think that very much falls within the same structure, right? And if you're thinking about value messaging frameworks, ways in which to engage with the right buyer, negotiating tactics, like a lot of those are the same techniques you would need in order to close a deal as you would at this stage in order to build those relationships to secure the data that you need to build a product, right? And I think there are probably a lot, I'm sure you're looking at this already, but like a lot of novel contracting mechanisms you could put in place at that earlier stage, such that you almost, by getting the data now, you don't have to sell them again. It's almost a contingent structure where you're able to establish those milestones. So point number one is data sharing, and point B or the destination is adoption without the friction in between from here to there.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you for your question. At this point, do you know if there will be any grant match requirements? So I believe if you read our press release, we state that we've got about $1.5 million in grant funding that will become available for this first collective. Whether there will be any grant match requirements, the way that we'd like to structure it is that we provide half the funding, and then a corporate sponsor or partner is the other 50-50 cost share partner coming in on that project with us. And so if the question is, will you need to put up any grant matching requirements? The answer is no, I don't think that's going to be our expectation. And instead, we're going to look to the corporate partners to provide that funding. That the design of the grants is still in consideration. And so we're going to provide more information to that first collective once we have it. But thank you for the question. And Christoph, I see that you've got your hand raised, so maybe we can just ask your question live if you want to come off mute.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm physically momentarily in Germany, but I studied in California in plasma physics and machinery. And as you're from Boston, I did a lecture on the MIT in 2015 in architect about energy efficiency coming from here. And I'm just curious because Chris said something about construction and stuff. I came up with a passive house in 1989, which is 10 years prior to the others that came out there later, and is what I saw, sorry to say, often very crappy. and not very good in the result. We have here sort of a EH40. That means half the energy consumption of normal passive houses without extra costs to build it. And that's what I'm actually trying to since today is trying to sell. Today the photographer was here, and to make some way to the States, because I saw there's much need also for that, not only for drying homes, but I tried it, as you said, holistically, coming from both sides, getting old houses fit for new things, and coming from the expertise. I have the first passive house in Germany. And sort of bring that together. That might be a challenge, which also can introduce some special production, not the way the thin walls, but thicker walls that are more energy sufficient and things. Is that something that will be good for you? And how can we work that out? Because it's a bit different, but special, unique. Sort of not the copy, but the original. And it was a mix of Asian, German, and Californian mix of, because I lived there, sort of I brought these things together, and no, by accident, happy accident, it became a very nice passive house. And together with the other technology in getting, as you had the floodings or so, sort of doing a flooding in 8 weeks, sort of the house, no matter how soaked in, it's good. That could be a challenge too. But I'm the only one that can provide both ends of the rope.
Right. So we have to definitely take a look at the application to understand more. And, I feel like we want to get to know every company really well, but unfortunately just don't have the time to on these calls. But please submit an application. We'd love to learn more. It seems like it would be a good fit. We do want to caution that we are looking for incorporated businesses, and typically the scale and size of company that we look for, I think, would typically have at least 2 or 3 full-time employees already. So that is the only caution that I would give. But other than that, we'd love to learn more.
But
and also congratulations on developing the first passive house of what it sounds like. So that it sounds pretty incredible.
It was crazy.
So
it was really crazy because it took me more than a year to being allowed to build it. Final decision was I was sitting with these people there, and they said about coding, I asked them, do you look inside my walls? And they said no. So can I just build it? It looks like normal. It is different. It's better than you have even on the plan. Can I build it? And he said yes. And then they said, okay, please sign the paper. And then I start building it.
Right. So we do, because of our close ties with NYSERDA and the government agencies here, we do want to make sure that we're covering, local policy and regulatory and permitting issues as well. So that we're going to be very closely aligned with that. But again, we won't be able to really give you a straight answer until we learn a little bit more. So we look forward to seeing your application, Christoph. Thank you so much for your question. Yes, Coz. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but
yeah, that's right. I mean, so just a little bit of introduction about ourselves. So we are building at Welcome Core. We are building storage and transport solutions. So far, we have like 4 times greater volumetric density than lithium-ion. I was a little bit late, like 2 hours, to submit that application to NYSERDA. I see that the pain point was that they are trying to stabilize the grid. Just wanted a quick touch base whether we can qualify in this case, because you did mention that the TRL issues, and yes, we are TRL5. We're trying to get it commercialization. We are looking for partners to demonstrate this within a year's time, and that's what we are at right now. So just wanted to quickly touch base with you whether we can qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we need to read the applications to fully know more, but it's a great opportunity for us to learn a little bit about you and even if it turns out to not to be the right phase of scale, then we are happy to introduce you to another program that may be a better fit. But yeah, sounds like it's a good fit for us just right off the bat. So please, looking forward to learning more. And then next question: what does the emeritus phase look like in practice? Very good question. I think the nice way to say it is that we're not just going to kick you to the curb once you're done with the program and never talk to you again. Like, we want to keep that engagement. We see this as a growing community, and we want to make sure that you're tied into the new companies that are coming in, and you're now a veteran of the Uptake Alliance. What sort of learnings can you pass back? And then also, like, you can be part of the events and engagements that we're building for the new collective of companies as well. And so want to make sure that that's always a two-way street, and that we continue to support you in the ways that you need. Obviously, there's going to be a time when you outgrow us and you're off to the moon, you're getting listed on the NASDAQ, and we're no longer really the right stage to support you, but we will continue to cheer you on with every success and help you through any tough times that you have. So continue to please look at us as a resource that you can always look back on. And I think that's the short answer. Probably a much longer answer in the future on like particular events and when the staging of that is, but that's all I'll say for now.
Benny, I'll just add quickly that there will also be ongoing access in perpetuity to our digital knowledge hub, where we're going to have content, curriculum, and really build that community across active companies, emeritus companies, and more. So absolutely welcome that. And then we're also looking at options where even emeritus companies would have ongoing access to apply for grants, sprints, and other pathways as well. So more to come on that as we refine those stages.
Awesome. All right. I don't think I see any more hands raised. Last call for question. Oh, last Q&A coming in. Uptake appears an excellent source for support for commercialization of climate tech. Thank you for the presentation. You're welcome. As technologies are coming online more rapidly than building codes are evolving, is Uptake positioned to help us navigate building codes and permitting? From Ellie Rusling. Very good question. Chris, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is, like, I'd lean on our mentoring process, whereas like the intent of connecting you with the appropriate mentor is to figure out what expertise you need and ensure that if that's what's holding you back from uptake and commercialization and adoption, we're pairing you with mentors that have really deep expertise in those areas. And so yes, like understanding what those challenges are around building codes and permitting are really important, and we can select mentors that are appropriate for that. We're also going to be listening to the needs of our collective over time and dedicating time toward sprints and other activities where we'll have a really focused set of almost like consulting type activities to work with groups of companies that have perhaps shared problems like that could be useful in addressing together. And then again, the last thing I'll mention is this is a community that includes policymakers, policy influencers, regulatory bodies as well. And we're going to regularly be bringing in folks that can educate the collective more broadly on some of the challenges of driving adoption of these technologies because of the constraints of building codes and thinking through creative strategies for getting those technologies to market.
Yeah, and Chris, the only thing I'd add to that is that it's really tough for one startup to make their voice heard amongst all of the different laws and regulations and policies. But if it's a coalition of companies of uptake that 5 or 6 companies are all saying that this one thing is an issue, or even broader, we look to the broader NYSERDA and New York ecosystem and work with those companies to then address and say, hey, like, we are seeing an issue with this law, and this local law is causing issues for a lot of companies, then that becomes a much stronger message. And so hopefully this community is one that not just is focused on building their own company, but is actively engaged with local, state, and government, and and gets involved in the national conversation as well. So no other questions. I don't see any other hands raised. Last call, going once, going twice. I think we can end a little early. And if you've learned nothing else, then I hope that you can take away that we are efficient and effective and will end ahead of schedule. So thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and get to know you all. We look forward to seeing your applications and learning more about what you're working on and seeing how we can support you. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is benny.kim@uptakealliance.com. And you can feel free to reach out to me at any time. If you are looking to, thank you so much. Great, glad to hear you enjoyed. If you want to learn more, please go and check out our website as well, where our applications are also available. Again, reminder that applications are due October 27th, so please get those in. It's only about a 45-minute application, so pretty quick and painless, we hope. But you can also give me that feedback if it wasn't quick and painless. So thank you all again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for the great engagement and the great questions.
Bye, everyone.